are flat. I would presume that the same is true on the right side as well. The passenger side, you can see the driver's side window is down there. We have at least one male driver in the vehicle, and it looks like they're just going to slowly follow him. It looks like he's just stopping at this red light, going through, making a right now off of Main Street onto Chestnut Avenue. And I believe, guys, he's going to be on borrowed time here. Judging from this shot here, does appear that both, or actually all four tires, are going flat pretty quickly here.
All right, this is on East Chestnut Avenue, just off of Main Street, and the traffic, the street level traffic here is very heavy, and that was slowing him down already. He kept getting stopped at these intersections.
Heavy traffic, but
right.
Because of the heavy traffic, Mark, they have plenty of time. The police department has plenty of time to cordon off all of these intersections, not cordon off, but basically meet him at all of these surrounding intersections. You saw just a second ago, there was a motorcycle officer on the sidewalk trying to get in front of some of this traffic, and now he's just kind of weaving through this residential neighborhood. Again, as you can imagine, this time of the day on a Thursday afternoon, we've been talking about how heavy traffic is today and tomorrow leading into the holiday weekend, but as folks get off work now, traffic is very congested here in Santa Ana. We're now going away from downtown Santa Ana as he makes his way eastbound on Pine Street. But worth mentioning, he's traveling very slowly, and we'll just have to wait and see here how this vehicle behaves with four flat tires. He's again, I have to believe he's on borrowed time here.
For sure, Chris, he must be on borrowed time, because we saw, it was right before we went to you, we saw Santa Ana police putting out that spike strip. It was absolutely perfect because it was stopped right behind the light, and all four tires looked like they went over it, and now we see all four tires look like they're deflating, and it's going to cause him some great deal of problems when he tries to navigate that car as he's going to get down to the rims.
Yes, sometimes, those spike attempts are semi-successful depending on the speed that they're going, or sometimes they'll have the opportunity to go around the spike strip. That wasn't the case here. It was a nice casual stroll over the spike strip, and I'm sure that all four tires at this point have numerous punctures, and that would explain why they have so quickly gone flat. It really appears he's unsure what he wants to do here, doesn't have a clear destination in mind, now doing a circle around this block, again, in a very residential neighborhood. We're going south on Halliday Street, and I believe there are at least 10 Santa Ana units, but again, those are the units behind him. There's also a number of units ahead of him, and it looks like he's coming to another stop here. Really unclear what the mental capacity is here, whether he's intoxicated or under the influence of some other substance, or whether he's just if he's pulling over, essentially pulling over here. We'll see if he complies with officers' demands here. They're going to try and end this pursuit right here, almost pulled into this parking spot, essentially, and now they are going to have the dogs ready. They're going to have him at gunpoint here in just a second. You can see at least one officer, two officers, three officers with their guns out, and hopefully he decides to give this up as peacefully as possible, and we can expect hopefully to see the tail lights turn off once he turns the vehicle off, hopefully, if he follows orders, and eventually the driver's side door will open, as we are so accustomed to seeing. But you notice that they are not getting up ahead of him here. They don't want to create a crossfire situation just in case they have to use force in a situation like this, but because of the slow speed nature of this pursuit, I can tell you that the intersection in front of him is now completely cordoned off, so the pursuit appears, and I stress it appears, is going to end right here at the intersection of Chestnut Avenue and Halliday Street. Did a loop around this block, ended up a block off of Main once again, and it looks like they're going to wait for him to come out of the vehicle. At this point, it'll be a standoff situation until he decides to comply. Again, what his mental state is, clearly in question at this point, just judging from the driving and the speeds he was going through here. If this was just a joyride, it appears it's come to an end. Yeah, no joy for him anytime soon. What have you had any sense of what he was wanted for initially? No, there was some speculation that it may be a stolen SUV. We have not independently confirmed that, but that is one of the things that we've heard up here. Again, it looks like he's not complying at this point, you would expect that the driver's side door would have already opened up. But at this point, they're going to wait it out, wait for him to come out. Unclear also, Mark, whether there are any other suspects in the vehicle. We only were able to observe the male driver in the driver's seat. But, yeah, the number of passengers still a question mark, as well as the original want, although I should say that we did hear that it may be a stolen vehicle.
All right, this is Eyewitness News at 5 now. I'm Mark Brown.
I'm Michelle Tuzzi, and we are following breaking news, a police pursuit that is on the streets of Santa Ana, and it has come to a halt, but the driver is refusing to get out of that vehicle. This has been on surface streets in Santa Ana. Just in the last few minutes, that car coming to a stop after going over a spike strip that was deployed by Santa Ana police officers. It was a very successful spike strip with all 4 tires going flat. And eventually, this vehicle, this SUV, coming to a stop here at East Chestnut and South Halliday Street. But now we are at a standoff, and officers are outside of their units with their guns drawn, waiting to hopefully get that driver out successfully and soon.
Yeah, and that dog really seems eager to get involved as well. You see it there, just like ready to go after this guy if an opportunity arises, or if they decide to deploy that dog. But so far, no movement of any sort from this vehicle. As far as we can tell, the windows are still up. The doors certainly haven't opened. We don't know of more than one person in the vehicle. We're not certain exactly why this person was wanted in the first place. The pursuit going through those surface streets in and around downtown Santa Ana, which kept it pretty slow. And also enabled officers to find choke points at various locations. They were able to use that spike strip with really great effectiveness. As we have seen, all 4 tires appear to have been flattened. And so now this person is just sitting there. Christy, what are you noticing around the area?
Yeah, it's right now a wait-and-see game for these officers, as well as that canine unit. There are a number of canine units to speak of down there as that dog continues to bark, and, of course, officers continuing to order this person out of the vehicle. I would imagine at this point they have resources in place to determine what may be happening inside the vehicle. Although we can't see it from our vantage point, they are equipped with technology that does allow them to see what is happening in the vehicle from above. And so that's going to be one of the resources they rely on as they wait and see what the suspect decides to do, and also decide if they can figure out actually how many people are inside the vehicle. Surely officers probably aware of that number at this point. Hopefully just the driver they have to deal with. This was a pursuit, a slow-speed pursuit, as you mentioned, Mark. Lasted for close to 15, maybe upwards of 20 minutes at the most. Made its way right past South Coast Plaza and ended right here in downtown Santa Ana as he made his way. He was on the freeway at one point, and that may be actually, I'm not sure which freeway, to be honest, but at one point he was on the freeway and eventually got off the freeway at Main Street, and that's basically where he was the whole time, just traveling very slowly, very casually up Main Street, northbound on Main Street, stopped with the traffic, stopped for a lot of the traffic lights. And again, it really appeared to just be a joyride that he was taking police on. As the pursuit went on, so did the number of officers behind him. That number grew pretty steadily over the course of this pursuit. And now we have upwards of a dozen units, again, not only behind him in this case, but also at the intersection in front of him. So a number of resources now in place. As you mentioned, Mark, when they're going that slow, it really gives law enforcement an excellent opportunity to meet him at every pass, try and choke him off at any intersections that they can, and in this case, it sure worked, as they were able to attempt one very, very successful spike strip that was just so textbook, even easier than textbook, I would say. The way he was just kind of casually rolled right over the spike strips, and I can't remember another time where we just saw all 4 tires instantly within 30 seconds were wobbling around there, and it was clear to the driver and clear to us up here in Air 7 that the vehicle was not going to make it very far. Now, he could have kept going until he ran out of rubber and tried to drive on the rims if he really was that desperate, as we often see, but this guy doesn't appear to be in that kind of a mental state. What his condition is and what he's thinking at this moment, really purely speculation at this point. But until he shows signs of movement or signs of complying with officers' demands here, it's really going to be a wait-and-see game. This can go on for minutes, if not longer, before they get resources in place and eventually approach the vehicle. But again, time is on their side here. It's on a residential street. They will begin warning residents here if it goes on too much longer. And again, they've got him choked off at the intersection up ahead here. So even if he decided to try and continue the pursuit, he's not going to make it very far. And just judging from his behavior so far, he just doesn't appear to be that type of a pursuit suspect. He just appears to be willing to give it up here. Again, what he's thinking at this moment, really anybody's guess.
Right. Well, our Greg Lee, our Orange County reporter Greg Lee, has just tweeted, quoting Santa Ana PD, that the suspect may be linked to some robberies in the city of Santa Ana. That may explain have some reason for the explanation, I guess, for the number of officers that are responding to this, that are continuing to show up in the area. If this person is in fact a suspect in some robberies, then that would up the ante somewhat. And still waiting to see if anything happens. Now, it's important to note, if you live near this intersection, this is Chestnut Avenue and is it Halliday? Yeah, on Chestnut Avenue, the 620th block of Chestnut Avenue and Halliday Street. Anywhere around there, if you live there, please lock your doors, close your windows, make sure everything is secure. Don't go out onto the street to try to get a vantage point there, because you could put yourself in the line of fire in the event that shots end up being fired here. So a direct message to people who live in this area: if you're watching this and you know of somebody who lives in this area who might not have access to a television or whatever, let them know. Let them know to stay in their homes. And that's all the commotion you're hearing, all the helicopters and everything. Don't come out and investigate. Just stay inside, turn on Channel 7, watch what's going on here for your own safety.
Yeah, pretty scary if you're in that house on the right now, watching this scene outside of your window, multiple police units and a car pulled over with the suspect refusing to get out. What was really remarkable was when they deployed that spike strip, Mark, and the driver had no option. It was beautiful. I mean, there was nowhere to go but over it.
Yep, either stop
and
yeah.
stop right there.
Right. He elected to roll over it, and it didn't work out so well for him. All the tires are flat. The thing pretty soon became really hard to maneuver, and now is just sitting there. And it's been sitting there now for the better part of 5-6 minutes, which is good. As long as he's not trying to move, that means the danger is less for people who are out and about. But you know, there's still a situation here, a standoff essentially they have right now. Chris, what are you hearing?
Yeah, Mark, as you mentioned, Mark and Michelle, as night falls here in Santa Ana, we're just less than a mile away from downtown, directly across the street, I should mention, from Roosevelt Elementary School. Of course, school not in session right now, but that would be behind him and over to the south a little bit, just to kind of give you an idea of where we are. Nobody in any danger over there, but as you mentioned, they are going to begin the process pretty soon here, I would imagine, of warning residents, as we have been, especially in this particular vicinity of South Halliday Street and Chestnut Avenue. That's going to be Hickory Street in front of him. So this entire block between Halliday and Hickory Street is going to be cordoned off here, and they will be making every effort to keep residents inside their homes until the suspect comes out or gives himself up, or unless they have to use force here. Hopefully it doesn't come to that. But again, with the pursuit coming to a stop here in that fire zone, he just pulled over into that spot there and came to a complete halt, as you mentioned, Michelle. Now law enforcement has all the opportunity they need to get their resources in place and call for any additional backup if they have an indication that they may need it. Sometimes they'll even call the SWAT team to extract the driver if necessary. Certainly they have enough resources, I think, here to bring him out just from our vantage point, but sometimes it does require additional backup, and they have those resources at their availability. But you can see at this point we've got 5 units just in our screenshot right here, right behind him, with officers,
Chris,
and their guns drawn. Yep, guys,
Chris,
go ahead.
Looks like the window's down. I think I see an arm pointing out of the window there. Do you see that?
We'll go ahead and push in there. I have not.
Window's down.
It looks like he's kind of just sitting there with his arm sitting on the windowsill, with the window down. A very casual posture, it looks like. So it does appear that he's He's conscious, we could say that, it looks like, with his arm just resting there on the windowsill and just casually enjoying his final moments. I hesitate to say moments of freedom. Whatever freedom he has will not last very long here. He will be going straight to county lockup after this. But here comes the hands, both hands out the window, and he's giving up this pursuit the same way he ran from the police in a very casual, very slow speed manner, and now he's basically giving up on his own terms here, just taking his final breaths here before he gives up. But you can see they're giving him additional instructions here. Those arms are out the window. They want to see the keys come out of the ignition, hopefully, and that'll be happening here shortly. I would imagine that's what they're telling him at this point, to shut the vehicle off and then step out of the vehicle. It does look like those taillights are off now, so the vehicle may be off, but the hands are out the window. And again, what his ability is to understand what's going on, whether there may be a language barrier, sometimes that's the case, doesn't understand what's being said, what they're telling him. But here comes the driver's side door opening up. Looks like he's going to give this up peacefully with his hands up, and he is ready to end this. It looks like good news here, folks, as this pursuit has come to an end here in Santa Ana, again at the intersection of East Chestnut Avenue and South Halliday Street. The driver finally giving it up here, and hopefully giving up pretty peacefully. Looks like he is stepping back.
Trying to move about as slowly as he possibly can, too. You notice that?
Very slowly, yep.
Really
very
good,
slowly.
really
The same way he was driving, he is now moving basically in slow motion here. And they will eventually have him walk backwards, obviously, as we've seen so often, and have his hands in handcuffs. I'd like to say pretty soon, but at the speed he's moving, we could be here for a few more minutes.
Yeah. Well, maybe he's hearing that canine's bark and wants to make sure he does everything to the T so that dog is not released on him.
Well, he's definitely crossing every T at this point, thinking about every I that he's dotting, and who else knows what's going through his mind here. He is really taking his time. They are communicating with him, and he certainly appears to be complying at this point, even if he's doing it slowly. At least he's taking it in and trying to, do the right thing, keep his hands up in the air there. As you know, sometimes these things are so unpredictable for other reasons. This one is more unpredictable because it's just you just wonder what's going through his mind and what his mental capacity is, what he decides to do here. Hopefully, this just continues in slow motion, and he will step back one step at a time, and eventually one hand behind the back, and then a second hand behind the back, and this is just going to happen at a very slow speed, it appears.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's still, of course, a very dangerous situation for officers. They don't know if he might be armed at this point, and until he is on the ground and they can swarm him, the danger is not over until he gets down on the pavement.
And our Greg Lee has tweeted that he's now confirmed that it was a stolen vehicle. The other part regarding robbery, we're not sure about, but this is a stolen SUV they're looking at here. And this guy's at the wheel of a stolen car and now complying very slowly and judiciously with the orders of Santa Ana police, who are accompanied by that very vociferous dog there that you're seeing there that is barking at him incessantly. And everything's calm, hopefully.
Yeah.
Very slowly here, you can see we've got our SkyMap 7 technology here, and hopefully next year we could debut our time-lapse 7 technology, so these can move a little bit quicker here. Again, he's just moving so slow, and now he's moving sideways. I would assume that's what they're telling him to do, but maybe, maybe they're having him place his hands on the back of the vehicle there. I would imagine at this point that they've determined he's the only one inside the vehicle. We won't know that for sure. Okay, this is a little weird. It's a little weird. He's stepping onto the curb there. Again, continuing sideways. I have to wonder, really, we've mentioned it a few times, what the mental capacity is, what state he's in, whether he is under the influence of some substance or intoxicated to some degree. Now it looks like he may be getting on his knees, on the grass, up on the curb. And they'll probably approach him at this point in just a few seconds. Not really much sense of waiting for him to. Okay, he's back on his feet here. I would imagine this is not what they're telling him to do, but I could be wrong. Again, whether there's a language barrier or whether there's some other something else going on there, we just don't know. But it is happening very slowly, suffice to say.
It does seem like usually when we see these things come to an end, they want them to get on the ground and lie down face down on the ground. But yeah, hard. Of course, we don't know what the instructions are from Air 7 HD. We can't hear them, but now he's putting his hands behind his back, and now here they are moving in.
And here it is. The arrest team moves in. No force needed here. They're just going to have to clear that vehicle, and they will take this guy into custody finally after a long, drawn out. I think the surrender actually lasted longer than the pursuit itself, to be honest with you. But they do have him in custody, and now they have their guns aimed at the SUV, where they will hopefully give the code 4 here in just a minute and declare the vehicle empty. We'll watch that here as they place the driver in custody. Looks like everybody is going home safe here in Santa Ana.
All right, well, that's certainly good news. There he goes. Is that the guy?
That's him.
That's him. Okay.
Yeah, that's
I
him.
took
They're
my
going to
eyes
search
off it
him,
for a
frisk
second,
him, make sure he's
but
not armed, and make sure there's no other threat there.
Yeah.
But yeah, his hands are in handcuffs at this point behind his back, and they are now clearing the vehicle as we speak.
All right, well, that's good news, and we're going to see them walk up and clear it, and hopefully we'll get that code 4 signal that they
I gotta say,
give out.
they still are. They're watching that vehicle like a hawk, and very cautiously. I almost would have imagined by now they would have approached the vehicle. I have to wonder whether they have reason to believe that there may be somebody else in the vehicle. Now, that's just speculation on my part, but just judging from the body language here, they're still they're acting pretty slow to approach the vehicle. Of course, every supervisor operates at their own discretion here. Here they go. They're going to move in, and with those tinted windows, it is often very, very difficult. And with an SUV like that, you have no idea how many people might be in the vehicle, but they are approaching very, very cautiously, as you would imagine. Here comes the rear passenger door open, and they will be able to see in here and make sure there's nobody in the back. But it looks like there's nobody in the seats, and it looks like they've got an empty SUV here, guys.
Okay, we'll see them check.
They got to check the back.
They've got to check the back. Yep.
In the meantime, we do have the driver in custody. This pursuit coming to an end in Santa Ana on surface streets. As Chris mentioned, it was on the freeway briefly.
We'll go ahead and push in there,
but
Jim.
mostly on surface streets. It wasn't a very lengthy chase, only about 15
code 4, so this is,
to 20
this
minutes
is over,
before it came to an end. Okay, it's come to an end safely. Suspect in custody, and the vehicle has been cleared. Chris Christie, thank you for your coverage out there in Santa Ana.
All right.